Don't miss psychedelic pioneer Dennis McKenna and the leading thinkers in today's psychedelic sciences at the Portland Psychedelic Conference 2018. Tickets are moving fast and will sell out. Don't miss your chance. Get your ticket today.
Okay, yeah, okay. And then okay. Okay, we're going to get started. So we have with us one of our, who's become one of our regular excellent speakers, Jane Latimer. She's a longtime therapist, a counselor. You go by counselor. A lot of experience dealing with trauma, and I do need a better intro for you. So anyway, she'll tell you more about herself, but please welcome Jane.
Welcome. I'm so happy that you guys came out this evening. I was glad it was sort of rainy today because this is the second event of a series of 6, and we're doing one a month. So last 2 months ago, we did one on some of the basic foundation of working with developmental trauma. A couple of months ago, I did a talk at the Paris Theater called The U Beyond Trauma. Is anybody who's here there? Okay. Yay, one person. Anyway, I would highly recommend that if you have, well, you haven't seen this, then go ahead, and it's on YouTube.
It's on your YouTube channel.
It's on YouTube channel, and it is a good basic foundation that explains my whole approach to dealing with developmental trauma and psychedelics. So this tonight we're going to work specifically with the idea of safety, and that involves both self-nurture as well as self-protection. And we're going to talk about that and how to dive deeper into an experience of safety and what it has to do with developmental trauma and why we need it, as well as then the issues around using psychedelics and safety issues, especially with developmental trauma. So I'm assuming everybody here is aware, or has some context to be here for the purpose of understanding developmental trauma specifically as opposed to shock trauma. They're closely related, but they're not the same. And also, there are some people who have much less degree of trauma in their background, so there isn't as great a need for what I am going to speak of, although there are degrees of this that we all need. So with that said, I want to thank all of our help. If and when and if we break out into small groups, and that's going to have a lot to do with sort of the flow of the event. I'm a flow speaker, so I follow the energy in the room, and then I guide in that way. I have a good idea outlined in my head, but I like to follow you guys, and so bring up what's needed at the time. And Jason, who's so amazing with the video camera and the editing, who put all of these videos together. So, and Helen, of course, who's the great founder of this awesome organization. So anybody here not know what developmental trauma is? Okay, well, basically, so it's when we've been traumatized as we were growing up, as we were younger, more powerless, helpless in our childhood environments. Things happened to us like abuse or neglect, and we didn't have a means to cope with it. So basically, it's a good review to remember that when that happens, as we grow older, we miss certain skills that kids without trauma get to learn when they have parents who are supporting them through the developmental stages of childhood. They get to learn how to deal with certain life situations, both with a sense of, they come out with a sense of self-protection, and they're wired with this innate sense of how to protect themselves as well as how to nurture themselves, which gets missing in those of us who were raised with not such friendly environments. And then we miss a lot of those skills, and then we go through life until we go, something's not working here. And then we realize, well, wow, something's missing. How come they seem to be doing better than me in this situation? And chances are the reason is because of developmental trauma and because our capacity to protect ourselves is less than is less than needed, as well as our capacity to self-nurture. So I got into this work because I was raised in a family that was a really nice, good New York City Jewish family, and I was well provided for and protected, materially. I grew up in New York City, and I was very overly protected, actually, because I wasn't allowed out to roam around. But as I approached adolescence, I found my rebel came in really strong, and that's when I started experimenting with psychedelics and roaming around the city and doing all sorts of things that made my parents very crazy, including hitchhiking across the country from New York City to San Francisco in the 60s. So, landing right in the center of Haight-Ashbury. So, what I want to stress is that during all of that time while I was doing a lot of LSD, mostly at the time, a little bit of peyote, whatever we could get our hands on, a bunch of amphetamines, that was basically it during that time. I was blowing my brains out, but I was thinking about this talk, and I was thinking, now, why do people who want to use psychedelics need to know about safety? And I realized the big aha was that safety, the psychedelics, didn't ever teach me how to be safe. They gave me a lot of other awarenesses. They gave me, I had many out of the cosmos spiritual experiences and spiritual awakenings. And then in later life, when I was doing things like ayahuasca, I went down to Peru and did work with the shamans down there, and later ibogaine, and did some healing with birth trauma through ibogaine, as well as then doing some work with MDMA and psilocybin. Okay, none of the medicines taught me, and I don't know, maybe I'm the only one in this room, but none of these medicines taught me how to create safety in my life. So I thought, okay, this is a good place to start. So this is the basic reason why when we have been traumatized as children, we need to learn safety skills whether we use psychedelics or not. So that's what we're going to talk about. These are skills you want to bring into your life regardless of whether you're using entheogens or not. They're crucial for feeling a sense of well-being as we progress through our life. So, with that said, I want to know if anybody else here has anything else to add for yourself in terms of safety. Like why? Besides the fact that psychedelics don't teach us that. Well, I mean, why do we need to? Why is safety an important piece? If anybody wants to throw some stuff out, just so
Are we talking about safety while we're using the medicine, or just having a safe place in our life to retreat to or go find or something? All of the above?
All of the above.
Okay.
So this is about safety while we're using the medicine as well as safety in our life in general. I mean, why do we need it? Why make a big deal about it?
Well, if you're traumatized and you've been through a lot of abuse, then your lack of safety and self-protection can perpetuate the same kind of dynamics in your future relationships.
Perfect. So, perfect reason. So that without safety, without knowing safety, we continue to get ourselves into unsafe situations. Mm-hmm. Including psychedelics. So if we're not aware, well, I mean, even if we're not aware that one, safety is important, and two, do I know how to create safety for myself or not? If we don't have that awareness, then we can go into all sorts of the eco-dissolution experiences with the medicines and have no idea what to do when we come out the other side. Because, as I said, psychedelics don't give us the skill of creating safety. We need to know how to do that for ourselves. Okay, anybody else? Yeah.
The opposite of feeling unsafe is feeling safe. So once you reach a state in your life where you feel really safe, you open up pathways for other success in your life to happen. So once you're stopped worrying about, am I safe, am I not safe, something's bad gonna happen, well, you can get through that and feel safe and have all of those other successful things happen once you process that.
Beautiful. So just to say that again, so when we have the foundation of safety, which is, it's the foundation, then we're able to move into, our capacity to take more risks, to explore life, to have more adventures, and our capacity to take care of ourselves. That's a crucial piece, the capacity to take care of ourselves in whatever situation we happen to go into enables us to then move more freely through situations. Thank you. Let's try somebody else who hasn't spoken first. Yes?
Well, for myself, I realized that since I didn't have the tools to create safety for myself, I spent a period in my life creating numbness so I wouldn't feel, that was my sort of fake safety was numb, and that didn't help.
Actually, that's a great example, so that when we don't have safety, then we have to, our body mechanism knows how to create some semblance of safety for itself in the meantime. And one of the major ways, well, there are two major ways is our body does that for us. When it causes us to dissociate, which is why we get into things like addictions, as well as just go off into la-la land, so we don't have to feel the fact that we're not safe. Because if we were to feel the fact that we're not safe, we wouldn't know what to do about it, right? So basically, that's one of the devices that the body uses to protect ourselves from lack of safety and from feelings of terror, fear, and on the extreme would be feelings of terror is we dissociate, and we also freeze or go numb. So very good. Yes. Yes.
I think that feeling safe also enables us to evaluate whether something is really safe or if something's really a threat. So when we're not safe, we don't have the capacity to tell. So I think that's another nice thing about safety.
Beautiful. So that's another great example. So if we don't have a foundation of safety, then we don't know what unsafe is. So we get ourselves into all sorts of situations, which I can tell loads of stories from my own childhood. But I will spare you that. And actually, what I would like to do is I would like to use that comment as a segue into how do we create safety and how do we learn about safety and what is the experience of safety. So let's just look at what safety is not. But so I'm sure that many of you in here are aware of this and are probably, perhaps some of you are beyond this way of creating safety, but maybe not. So let's bring it to our awareness. So for most of us, before we have inner awareness, we look for safety by looking to the outside world. And that's not a bad thing necessarily. I mean, but what happens is we begin to attach to this person's going to bring me safety. Or if I put a lot of money in my savings account, I'm going to feel safer. Or if I become more successful in my life, then I will feel safer. So we have all of these ways that we look outside of ourselves to create safety. But if we were to take those things away, those ways that we grasp for safety on the outside, we were to take them away, then what would we find? We would find inside an intense feeling of lack of safety, which is felt as fear and as well as rage. So fear and rage are the underlying experiences below safety. So in order to switch this around, so we're switching our focus from the need to get safety out there and bring it inside here, I'd like for you guys to tell me what you know about how to do that. Yeah.
Maybe like meditation, practicing meditation.
Okay, so meditation is one really good way. And there's also a problem with meditation in terms of creating safety. And I'll explain that in a little bit because I'm going to do an exercise with you all that will show you. But certainly, and the type of meditation that one does. So, for example, we can do meditation that will take us out of our body. Okay, so that's an illusion of safety because if we're not in our body, then we don't know. It's the same way as dissociating. So there are spiritual practices that take us out of our body, and we can feel, for the time being, I'm okay, but then when I have to go back into the world and deal with this person or deal with this job issue or my money issues, I don't quite know how to do that, and so it can continue to perpetuate a sense of lack of safety in one's life. However, if we're using a meditation that actually grounds us in the body and shows us how to feel and experience a sense of embodied safety, which is I'm going to show you in a minute how to do that, then we can carry that embodied safety out into the world as we move through the world and how we move through our life. And we can use that as a guidance system. So that's what we're going to work with in a moment. So anybody else? How have you created inner safety? Yes?
Going to the senses. You talk about in the body, but basically any of the senses.
Yeah. So as soon as we use sensation that brings us into presence, there's an innate capacity that we have to know that right now, right here, right now, in this body, in this moment, I am safe. So the use of the practice of meditation on sensation in this present moment is a really good way of coming back to safety through the body.
What if your present moment is really chaotic, right, and your bad situation? Just retreat ASAP.
No, so that's a very, very important question, and the reason why I'm pausing is because I'm remembering an incident when I was younger, when I had two little children like this big, and I was just beginning to learn the process of learning how to feel what it feels like to be safe in my body, because I had no idea at that point. And I remember the place where I was living had that sense of chaos. And because of that, and because I wasn't capable of feeling safe in my body, I wasn't fully aware that I could change the things about my life situation in order to create safety. So when we don't have when our environment is not safe, but we don't have an inner reference for safety, then we cannot know, or we think that we are victims of that chaos, or we believe that we do not have the power to change those situations. And that's a learning. I mean, that's a really important learning that all of us need to do, is to know how to navigate and know how to read the environment we're in and choose that we want to feel safer in our environment. And what would a safe environment actually be? Maybe it won't. Some of us are very sensitive to sound, as I am. So in my quest for safety, there was a movement towards quieter living. Some of us are less sensitive to sound, so that's less important. Some of us are more sensitive to visual chaos or the movement of people through our space. So as we become innately and inner aware of our own needs around safety, then we can begin to pick and choose what it is that we need to have in our environment to create safety. So this is a very interesting balance, because we need to create safety internally, but we also need, as we're creating that safety internally, we also need to know how to adjust our outer circumstances to create greater safety for ourselves. Okay, any other comment on what would be needed to create safety?
Deepening and slowing down the breath.
Deepening
and slowing down the breath.
Yes, perfect. So let's use that comment to begin to create some deeper sense of inner safety right now. So I'm going to guide you through. First, it will be a breath experience. And then we're going to move into an experience that will start to train you to utilize your safety resources. So I'm going to backtrack a moment. So an experience of safety is a body-felt experience of well-being in the body. So that's the key. So if we're not in our body and we cannot relax deeply, if we cannot relax and feel open, then we're not feeling safe. So safety is an experience of relaxation and openness in the body. It's not an idea and it's not a concept. When we were little, we didn't get mommy's holding, then we don't know how to do that. So mommy's holding us, being loved and nurtured and cared for and held by another human being with eye contact enables our little selves to deepen into and experience the world as safe. If we don't have that, then our nervous system goes into states of arousal, and as we grow older, we create defensive mechanisms to protect us from what appears to be an unsafe world. Is that making sense? So when we do this simple exercise, it's going to help you learn what that little baby should have learned back when that we maybe never got a chance to learn. And by slowing the breath down into the belly is one way that we begin to bring that sense of safety into the body, and it's crucial. So whenever you notice that you're not feeling safe, that's what the first thing is, to look at your breath. So if you're breathing up here, you're probably feeling anxious. If you want to feel safe, you need to bring the breath down deeper into the belly. Okay, so we're going to do that in a moment, but there's just one more thing I need to share. Having mommy hold us is a safety resource we should have had when we were small and little. If we didn't get that, we were missing that safety resource. So this is a key piece. When we're missing a key safety resource, as we get older and we start suffering from things like anxiety, depression, we need to learn to reinstate those safety resources into our life. And we can learn those. We can train ourselves, our nervous system, to do that. And there are the specific ways of doing that are by using what we call safety resources. So safety resources are either inner resources like meditation and breathing, or, for example, telling ourselves simply, I'm safe, this is okay, you'll get through it. That's a safety resource. If we can't tell ourselves that, we're missing that safety resource. So we need to learn how to do that. There's another kind of safety resources, which is external safety resource. External safety resources is I'm going to put myself in an environment that actually helps me take a deep breath. So if I'm traumatized and I'm out at Burning Man and I'm doing all sorts of crazy stuff and I'm wondering why I'm having a bad trip, and then the Zendo comes along and drags you into their safe place, and all of a sudden the trip gets easier. That's an example of an external safety resource that you didn't know you needed, but you did need it in order to feel safe. So that's why setting is so important when we're on a journey. We need the external resource of the safety mechanisms outside of us to help us feel safe. Place is one, people is the other. Those are two very important ways of getting external safety into our lives. Animals nature. Those are examples of external safety resources. Okay, so let's do this. So, okay, does everybody understand what we just discussed? Inner safety resource, external, outer safety resource. Anybody not sure what that is? Because we're going to work with them right now. Okay. Okay. So, I'd like everybody to take a moment and identify one internal safety resource that you know you have and that is a go-to resource for you when you're feeling anxious, that you can use to calm yourself down. So just identify one. And does anybody know, I'll take that back. Does anybody not following that? Anybody not have one? Okay. So I also want you to identify an external safety resource that is a go-to for you when you're feeling anxious. Again, a person, a place, an animal, a place in nature. Okay, does anybody not have one? Okay, so everybody here has one inner safety resource and one outer safety resource. Good. So right now, we're going to start by just closing our eyes and becoming aware of our breath. And notice where you're breathing. So notice if you're chest breathing, if you're belly breathing. And if you notice that your chest breathing, just take a moment to invite your breath down lower into your belly. And you're welcome to put your hands on your belly, and as you inhale, think of your belly inflating like a balloon. And then deflating on the exhale. If you're struggling with this, that can be common. I know that I've worked with many, many, many people who struggled with this first couple of times. After that, it clicked right in. So it just takes a little bit of time to teach the belly that it's okay to expand on the inhale. And allow the air out, deflating the belly on the exhale. And notice as you do this, how that impacts your experience of your body in this moment. We're going to continue doing this only on the exhale this time. Think of your breath moving down your legs, out the bottoms of your feet, and deep into the core of the earth. So by using the mind, we're focusing the breath even down further, so that your feet can actually sense its connection to the earth. This will help your body feel safe. Our bodies don't feel safe if we don't have ground to stand on. So just by doing this simple little exercise of exhaling our breath down into the earth, feeling our feet connected to the ground, you can also add the sensation of your bottom on the chair. Feel the support of the chair holding you up. It helps the body relax. The body wants to know that it's held and supported. And just take a moment, let your body sink into that sense of relaxation and safety. Beware that the tendency of the mind, especially the anxious mind or the traumatized mind, is to like run away, run fast to the next thing. So it's really important when we're doing this is to give ourselves permission to allow the nervous system to stay long enough in this place of safety to actually retrain it, to know that it's safe. So our minds are very tricky because our mind will create negative loops and cause us to bring up memories or situations that do not feel safe. And if you notice that happening to you right now, just know that that's normal. And it's like gently bringing yourself back to the place of safety in the present moment now. So this is a form of meditation that's very powerful for creating safety. It's breathing deep into the belly. It's feeling our bodies connected to the earth. And staying in it long enough to teach the nervous system that this is its reality. Now we're going to add to this basic foundation an image, or in your mind you can see one of your outer safety resources. So it might be a safe person, like an ant, if you had one of those, a friend, a therapist, an animal. It might also be an angelic figure or a guide or a spiritual presence if you ascribe to a spiritual practice. So it can be any form of something that is outside yourself, and bring that in right now. And notice, again, what's happening in your body as you bring in this image of this outer safety resource. And we can amp this up a bit by noticing or asking this person or being, this other, to tell us what it is we need to hear in this moment. So keeping in mind what would feel and help us to occupy a greater sense of safety right now. So it may be a message like, I love you, or you're perfect just the way you are, or I will protect you and guide you, or it's okay to make mistakes. So whatever it is that you are feeling a need for, this being can give you this message. It's okay to be angry. It's okay to feel. I love you even if you're not perfect. I love you even if you're angry at me. It's okay to speak your truth, even if it's different than mine. So those are the key kinds of healing messages that our safety resources can give us internally. So armed right now with this capacity to ground deeper into the earth in our body, with our breath, to bring in our safety, external safety resource and give it a voice, I'm going to invite you all to just think of one little thing that maybe causes you to feel anxious. Something may have happened at work, with a friend. And I don't want it to be too big a deal, just a little thing. And bring that in and notice what happens in your body as you begin to focus on that anxiety-producing event or situation. Notice how your body starts to leave its place of safety, just a little bit, because we're preparing the way for greater safety. But before it gets overwhelming or over the top, stop it. Stop the memory, stop the thought. Notice what thought's creating it and stop it and bring that healing resource back in. Come back to your breath. Come back to that person, come back to the message, and it may need to be a different message this time. Probably will need to be a different message. Stay with that until you can start bringing your system back down into place of relaxation and safety. And you may need to change the message a little bit, a few times, to find the one that really works in this particular situation. Okay, and slowly, when you feel ready, and open your eyes, we're going to do some sharing in a moment. But I'd like to hear if anybody had an experience they'd like to share with the whole group before we will switch into smaller groups for sharing. Or anybody have any questions? Did it work for you or not work for you? Were you confused?
I just had an interesting experience, which is that as soon as I started breathing, I think it's on my head so much, I felt like I'm incredibly hot right now. Like my body temperature went up, and I think just the experience of being in my body kind of activated it further. And it's just an interesting thing that I noticed.
Well, by you coming into your body, it sounds like you became more aware of your body's needs. So that's perfect. That's exactly what happens. So as we come into our body, we become more aware of what our body needs. We can give it the food it really wants, not the junk. We can give it the water that it's hungry for. When we're not in our body, we really don't know. And it's that same device that you just said, which will tell us when it's okay to be with this person and not this person. It's that same knowing. When we occupy our body from a place of safety, we have the internal guidance system to know when this person's not okay for me or be around, and when this person is okay for me be around. So thank you for that. It's a very, very important awareness. Is anybody else? Yeah, go ahead and then you.
I had a really hard time having my eyes closed. I found that I was not able to feel my body with my eyes closed, so I had to have my eyes open to feel my body. Does that negate the exercise in any way?
No.
Is that okay?
That's fine. Yeah, that's perfectly fine. And it's good that you went with what was right for you. So that's the key.
I very rarely am able to experience a complete sense of relaxation and safety. I'm always aware of some anxiety or tension in my body. I almost want to say I don't know that I've ever experienced a complete and total sense of relaxation in my body. And I think I normally get hung up on that, like whatever is still there in me. And for some reason, this time around, I just kind of let it be there.
Mm-hmm.
And took what I could get, instead of worrying so much about it being complete or total. But I don't know if you could speak a little bit to that.
I will, actually.
For some of us, we just can't quite get there.
Yeah, so that's a really, really good comment. So for those of us who've been traumatized, either shock trauma or developmental trauma, we cannot access safety completely by telling the body or showing the body how to relax. Okay? And the reason for that is because at the time the trauma happened, the fight-flight mechanism in the body was activated. So when a fight response or a flight response is activated, the body wants to respond either by fighting or by fleeing. And if it can't, those impulses get locked in the nervous system, and that's what we call the PTSD symptoms. So because they don't have any place to go, it's too overwhelming for the body to handle, and so the body goes numb, and then body goes numb, and then it can collapse. But underneath that numbness and collapse, there is an activation that's always there. That activation cannot be handled by telling the body to relax. So actually, and I'm trained in something called somatic experiencing, which is Peter Levine's work, where he works with and shows people how to use the fight-flight mechanism through past trauma to actually allow those natural instincts of fighting or fleeing that were not allowed at the time. The body needs to go back there and actually reactivate those impulses. And those impulses know exactly the way the body needs to discharge the tension. Okay, so that discharge of tension may be really like socking somebody, in the stomach, or kicking them real hard, or like pulling like as hard as we can. And until the body gets to express that way, the way it needed to express at the time of the trauma, that deep anxiety won't completely clear out of the system. Okay, so it's a really, really good example. And that's why meditation techniques won't work for those specific kinds of trauma. Yeah.
I find like during a lot of my psychedelic experiences, I'll get like a lot of tension in my body, and then feel like I need to like release it, and like by running around or like releasing these massive amounts of energy. Whereas like other people might just be like very relaxed and calm. And I'm wondering if that's like maybe like past trauma energy that's stored in my body that like, needs to be released.
It certainly can be, and that happens often. So when we're doing certain medicine work, the medicines will bring this stuff up from the unconscious, and those will be symptoms sometimes that will show up in the body. That's one of the reasons why when I'm doing integration, I always say integration work starts with preparation. So before somebody's going into a journey, you want to learn these skills or prepare the body, begin to clear out the stuff that can be cleared out before we go into journey. And a lot of that gets taken care of pre-journey, and then journey go into it, your body's clearer and can then sink deeper and to do the next level. What I also find though is that for some people, we don't hold a cosmological picture big enough that contains or helps us understand the place that our own trauma story fits into this bigger dimension picture. So I've been playing with this for my own personal self because I've been looking for this cosmology in my own life and asking myself questions like, when people come to me with trauma history and they want to work on stuff, and they're also psychonauts and they work with psychedelics, like, how can I best really help them get through this and integrate the whole shebang? So I wanted to share with you some of my view on this, and I'd be interested to hear how this fits into your interpretation as well. So I'm going to start with, we're introduced to, as soon as we go on a journey, for most of us, at least if we don't have the experience, we're craving it. We're craving the cosmic experience of some sort, of a unity. We want to know that there's something bigger. And so this cosmic experience is just represented by this big circle that surrounds everything. But we also come to our experience with our story. Okay, so here's our little story. And I like to call it, it's the ego story. So our trauma is really connected to our ego story. I mean, if we didn't have an ego and we go through this on our developing ego self, which we needed to do because that's part of our developmental process, and we've been traumatized, the whole trauma story is connected into all of that development of the ego. So we go through and we create this little story that we call our trauma and all the other pieces that are connected to it. However, and this is the part that I feel very passionate about, is that we all have what I call as true self, or our essential self, or our true nature. And that is very different than a cosmic transcendent experience. So I think it's important for us to begin to understand the relationships between the cosmic experience, the essential self or true self, the ego self, and these other dimensions of being that we get introduced to when we start exploring ourselves in deeper ways. So the essential self, essentially, the way I experience it, is it connects the cosmic energy that we become aware of, or we allow into our being as we get opened up. It connects that cosmic energy with our personality, like I am Jane, and you are you, and you are you, right? And yet, I can have an ego, or I can have a defensive way of being in the world that's separate from everybody else, but I can also be fully Jane as in an essential nature. And when I'm fully Jane in an essential nature, I essentially feel basically safe in my body. I have certain ways of expressing in the world that are different from your way or your way or your way. And I have a life path that I follow that's very different. So I've noticed that when people are going after spiritual modalities and they're going after transcendent, what always was confusing to me, well, how do I deal with transcendence in this physical body? I'm curious. Because we can feel great when we're meditating and we're leaving our body, right? But then we come back into our body and we have to deal with the world. So the essential nature is what connects us to the cosmic truth and our physical bodies connected to cosmic truth, and our personality expression connected to cosmic truth. So the way that we get there, if we split off, so if we're traumatized and we learn to dissociate and we don't feel safe in this body, then our spirituality or our psychedelic experience is going to be split off. So what we're doing here is we're learning how to get embodied in our body sense of self, owning the full cosmic consciousness of who we are, and at the same time have access to our primitive brain fight-flight response instincts. What happens in trauma is the fight-flight response instincts gets cut off because in our culture and in most cultures, if we were just being let loose on our fight-flight responses, we could get ourselves in big trouble. And we do when we're little. If we start having a temper tantrum or we're trying to fight our mommy off or our daddy off or something, we get slapped down. But those instincts to fight and flight are the instincts that also tell us to go in that direction and follow that path because that's exciting to me, and to not go in that path because that sounds really awful. And I may not know why. I may not have a cognitive explanation for it, but I have a gut level feeling. It's my passion to know that that's the right direction and that is not. And so when people come and they're working on trauma, I often have to explain that until we get your fight-flight response back on gear, where you can fight off what's wrong, what's happening to you, what was wronged, or you can access your flight response and run as far as you can to safety, until those pieces are back in place in your body, you do not have access to your wise instinctual nature. That makes sense? Mm-hmm. So here's what I like to say, that if we want to bring our cosmic experiences down, loosen the ego self so it doesn't those defenses don't control our actions, and access our true nature, this is where we need to work in the depth dimension. So the depth dimension is this animal body on this earth. That's why we're connected to nature. Actually, nature is the same as somatics. So when I'm feeling rage, or I'm feeling frustrated, or I'm feeling anxious, and I have like a knot in the pit of my stomach, that's my reptilian brain, my nature body, telling me something's off. And if I'm not able, and I don't know how to learn to listen to that, then I have cut myself off from my natural instincts. And no amount of cosmic consciousness or psychedelic journey is going to get that back. We have to have permission to experience the impulse of that experience that our body holds, because that's what happens in nature. That's what animals do. They don't have a cognitive brain that stops the instinct. We do. So we do the override. And as long as we're overriding, then we can't ever really feel safe, because we don't know how to fight and we don't know how to flee. So I'm just curious, by a show of hands, for those of you who have been traumatized, whatever, by rape, by car accident, by an abusive father, by an alcoholic mom, do you feel like you've been cut off from your anger response and your fight response? How many of you have that sense? Okay. So that's the first order of business that needs to happen. That is an aspect of the depth dimension. It's learning how to have a conversation with the body and trust the body's instincts. Body instincts. So instinct is connected to movement. Movement below thinking. And instinct happens not just in fight-flight, but instinct happens in terms of love and longing and desiring to go towards something and loving somebody. So it's our whole aspect, our whole being that guides us in that direction. That's instinct. How many of you keep track of your dreams? Yeah, not very many of you, because I've seen this happen. Okay, so, and I'm not surprised, because for some reason, and I don't know why, we have a dream drought, or we have a negation of the dream. And my feeling or my sense of it is that we're afraid to access the unconscious. It's the same reason why most people are afraid of psychedelics and won't even go them. But you guys aren't. You should be tracking your dreams, because your dreams are going to give you messages that no other window can tell. So I have a friend who I've been working with lately, he was one of those people. He was really mental, and he had his rational mind on board. And I said, we got to go out, and we got to go to a wild place in nature, and we got to do a medicine walk. I call it a medicine walk, because basically what that is you're walking through nature. You're sort of doing a journey, but you're doing it in ordinary consciousness. So you set an intention, you open a portal, you go through it, you have an experience, you come back, you report what happened. But the difference is in these medicine walk or these nature journeys, you're actually using what happens in a way that is giving meaning. It's from the unconscious, and it's reflecting back to you something you need to know that you didn't know before, because the unconscious, we don't allow the unconscious in. So we access the unconscious through the nature walks, we access them through our dreams, and we get messages. So what I'm beginning to do now in preparing people for their journey, I say you've got to bring in a couple of dreams. If you have never experienced being on Entheogen with a dream, you don't know what you're missing. Okay? I'm going to really encourage you, because the dream will show you what's happening in your ego defense structure that you cannot access otherwise, even on a journey. because they're sort of like different ways that the unconscious communicates to us. So dreams and sort of mythic archetypes go together. You know, mythic or archetypes or like warrior, are we going to be warriors? I mean, if we want to feel safe, all of us have to have our warrior on board. I mean, if we want to feel safe, all of us need to have our nurturer on board. If we want to play and enjoy this world, we have to have our inner child on board, our playful inner child. How many of you guys here really can say that your inner child is on board? That's what I was afraid of. And the reason why your inner child's not on board is because it's been conditioned out of you by our culture and by our trauma, because it's not safe. Little kids don't care. They don't know yet that it's not safe to have their inner child on board, so they just play until it gets whacked out of them. Or they go to school and they've got to sit in a chair for 6 hours a day and not move. But we have the capacity to call that back on board. So if you're wondering where joy comes from, I mean really joy and love come from, they come from what we've already talked about is a foundation of safety. But why? Just so we can walk around and feel safe? Why?
So you can play.
So we can play. Thank you. So, warrior helps us play. Because if you ever noticed, if you got that warrior out there, look, when I did ayahuasca, right? I went down there and then these big guys, like we're sitting in the Maloka, you know, and the shaman's doing the Rickarosa, and it's kind of cool. And the shaman actually plays. He plays during the day. I thought that was really interesting. Plays, he's play buddy by day, he does, and then he's like shaman by night. And so like, we're in the Maloka, but there are these big guys that are like circling the Maloka, like, you know, all night long. And like that makes it safe for us to play. So we have to have our inner warrior on board. We have to have our nurturer, because what happens if we go out and play and we get hurt? If we don't have our nurturer on board, then we beat ourselves up. Right? Who here has a judger that's taken over your nurturer? Okay, how many people have a nurturer that stops the judger? I don't think so. So these are the archetypes. This is what we're cultivating. We're cultivating Mother Nature, Mother Nurturer. And I remember when I was getting over my 20-year eating disorder, okay, because I never had a real mother nurturer. When I was getting over my 20-year eating disorder, and I was roaming the streets of New York City, like binging and purging in bars, hating myself because that's all I was capable of doing. Somehow or other, and I don't know, maybe it was all the psychedelics I was doing back then, but I was opened up to these, I called it like my cosmic mother energy, this cosmic mother energy that came in. That's how we can use psychedelics. We can invite those in. I need a cosmic mother. I need a nurturer. And they come in, and I remember like walking the streets and feeling the wings of this amazing cosmic mother, golden cosmic, that just her wings enveloped me because I had no other way of experiencing it. Now, it's internalized. Am I perfect in giving it to myself? No, of course not. But I have people in my life who can give it to me, so I've learned to internalize it. Am I perfect with keeping the judger out and abusing mind? No. But when I recognize it, I can stop it. That's my warrior. No. Okay. We covered mythics, dreams, nature. So I guess all I can say about nature that I want to say. So how many of you use nature as a safe space? Great. We innately know that we can go to nature to find safety because we innately know that we can't really find it on the streets with other people most of the time. So we go to nature for that. But there's another piece of nature that I want to bring to our attention, that if we want to join with the cosmic flow, I mean, how many people here have had cosmic experiences? Yes. Okay. And how many people here have found a way to actually live out that cosmic experience in your life? Okay, a few of you.
Still can't fly.
Still can't fly. So what I have found is that the connection, that what we call the flow state, when we access ease and play, and when we have a sense of when we have our instincts intact, so we're good to follow this direction and good to say no to that direction, that's all innate, natural part of us, which is the nature of us. So when we go to nature, we're actually, okay, if we go to nature, but we think of nature as separate from us, right? How many people go to nature and you're sitting there and you're going, God, why can't I feel this more? You know, like there's that thing in the head that just separates us. So when we go to nature in a way that we can use nature to unify us and we become one with nature, then we have a way to actually utilize that in our everyday life, the nature of us. And that is, again, through the somatic. So if we cut ourselves off from our body, we're cutting ourselves off from nature. We're cutting ourselves off from the cosmic flow that wants to move through us. Okay, if we're aware that our body is an aspect of nature and nature and I and cosmic are one, then we open to receive and we begin to trust. It's about trust, the instincts. But how many of us can actually move forward without the plan? The almighty plan. I know this one because I planned and planned and planned, and everything I planned went sour. But when I got in touch with the nature of me and I began to really trust that, right? I can hold the vision of where I think I might be going, because who knows really, but I can hold the vision, and then I can allow the nature of me to guide me. Because I'm connected to the whole. If I've been given that vision comes from the cosmic oneness. I receive it, I open to it, and then I just trust and follow my body's direction, and it will show me the right way. Yeah. So, nature is the tool. Okay. So the last one is feelings. Okay, some of you are going to go, what feelings? How many of you in here? No? Everybody here has feelings connected? I know for a fact because I know people, and that wasn't me, but I do know people, including my ex-husband, who when I would say, what do you feel? He would go, what?
Do people without feelings always know they don't have them? Because I think, I don't know, I think some people think they do and don't realize until later that they weren't having them. You know what I mean by that?
Yeah, I think so. So I think that some people don't know they don't have feelings. And that there's some sense of feeling. And I really think that some people are wired to have more feelings than other people. I don't think there isn't a one way to have feelings. But the key about feelings is that if we're wired to cut off our feelings because it wasn't safe to have a feeling when we were younger, that's a big one. So if we had a feeling when we were younger and we were slapped around or just ignored, that's a big one, just ignored. And the feeling didn't have a place to go. And you weren't validated for your well wishes and what you wanted to do because you had a feeling then we shut that whole mechanism down. And when we shut feeling mechanisms down, then we can't feel safe. Can anybody tell me, why can we not feel safe if we don't have our feelings? What?
Safety is a feeling.
Because what?
Safety is a feeling.
Well, safety is a sensation, and it is, yes, and so it has feeling components, like a sense of peace, sense of calm. But yeah, so that's one, because safety is, so we have to know we're safe. We have to know we're not safe in order to know we're safe. Anything else with feelings? Yeah.
Because you're alienated from the self. Like, because you're disconnected from the self, because like feelings are a part of the self.
Yeah. So if we're disconnected from our feeling nature is wired into us to let us know that something's safe or not safe. Right?
Yeah.
Or it's wired into us to know that we like that and we don't like that. But if we go into spiritual bypass, everything's good. Everything's good until the person comes at us and attacks us.
What is spiritual bypass?
The spiritual bypass is when we're using a spiritual concept to bypass a reality, a feeling state, a need that we have. So it's like, I don't really need to eat. I don't know. Somebody come up with an idea.
I've heard for spiritual bypass, like people using DMT or mushrooms and stuff, and then they say, for instance, that they can use that to bypass any real work that they need to do on themselves to feel connection to religion. They just use the drug, bypass the whole understanding religion and becoming, and just say, well, I'm a spiritual person. I shroom every week.
Yeah, or like I don't need to have a job or make money or like take care of my health and stuff because I'm like spiritual or whatever. Okay.
Exactly. So anything that negates what we need as a human being in a physical body in this earth.
Okay.
I don't need a relationship because I'm spiritual.
Yeah.
I'm whole unto myself.
So you think it's when they use spirituality as to not do anything that they're other human beings?
When you use spirituality to override a need.
Okay. Yeah, that was my misunderstanding.
So the thing is that feelings, and this is the next part, is that feelings always correlate with a need. So in order to know what we need, we have to know what we feel. So we cannot feel safe if we don't have our feelings. We can't know that we're safe if we don't have our feelings because we don't have a major part of our guidance system. If I don't feel that, I don't know what I need. Anybody can come up and do whatever they want to us. Because I don't know that it's not okay. That I have a need to be held and to be loved. And that it's okay that they torture me. But I'm kind of playing with it and making a joke about it, but no, this is true. I was there. I didn't know. I did not know that I needed a real home to feel safe in for a long, long time. I lived in a loft that was an old pork factory in the Soho district of New York City, and painted the walls black. And when the wind blew the window out in the middle of winter, I got a plastic tarp and put it over and got a space heater and got up under it. And I was fine. That's how I lived all winter long. Because I didn't know that I needed more to support myself and to thrive. And I'm not the only one who has that issue. I'm sure all of you have it on some level, or you know somebody who does, who you can look at them and say, can't you tell that that's not okay? And they're going, no, I can do this. Okay, so that's my basic cosmology. And what I'm about is, how do we get here? How do we get you out of the small story of your trauma and get you into the large story of your true life? Because if you take your small story and that's all you focus on, without realizing that the small story is only the doorway to this larger dimension, then there's no point. Okay, we cannot just keep repeating and telling and fixing the small story. There's a reason we do it, and the reason we do it, and the reason we create safety is to have the opening to the largest dimension of who we are. And there is a real physical way to get there, and it's through this. Okay, so with that said, questions. I have no idea what time it is, but it feels like it's done from my end. And so questions from you guys, and then we can do some more sharing in groups if we want to. We'll see what's needed.
How do we know when we're at the essential self and not just distracted by some other nonsense we distract ourselves with?
Okay, the way I answer that question, how do we know we're in the essential self and not in all the distractions that we distract ourselves? Is it works. Life works.
But
That's how I know. What?
how do we know life is working? Because we hear such terms as high-functioning alcoholic, workaholic, and these people's lives from the outside appear to be working just fine.
That's a great question, Jason. So, for one thing, if you're involved in an addiction, you're not in your essential self. So, period. There is an inner sense of, I'm okay. I'm at peace. I'm fulfilled. I'm enough. I'm enough. I'm at peace. I'm basically safe. I'm fulfilled. There's not a whole lot more I need. However, I may have a longing that's moving me towards my next iteration or my next chapter of life. And that's not coming out of a feeling of this sucks or this is lacking. It's coming because it's exciting and it's pulling us forward towards something larger, right? So that...
Sort of, but then I have friends who would describe that as mania when stuff starts going real good for them and they're moving towards the next phases really quickly and it seems to all be flowing that way. You see what I'm saying? So I don't know, I'm not challenging your essential self, I'm just trying to dial in maybe more of how we can differentiate that when we're talking to our friends and are dealing with our people.
Because other people will project that's a mania. That's okay, they can do that.
Okay.
Yeah. See, one sign of having an essential self is you really don't care to change anybody else.
Okay. Right. You're not even, you're just, okay.
You're in touch with yourself, and that's all that's important. You're doing your thing. You're on purpose. And you know that who you are is good enough, and what you have to give the world is on, and that you're growing yourself, and what he does or she does. If they receive, wonderful. If they don't, so be it.
Life feels like play. You're moving from a sense of curiosity and joyfulness.
Yeah.
Perfect. Curiosity and joyfulness. Play. Yeah. Any other questions? Okay.
I have some more if no one else has any. When you talk about getting into achieving the cosmic flow state and such, I mean, I know these are just words to help us, but have you achieved it for periods of time? Or does it just come for a day for you, or for hours at a time, or minutes?
You know, I've been grappling with that same question.
Yeah, I'd love to
And
know.
when I grapple with that question, then I think that's my ego grappling with that question.
Yeah, sometimes
So,
me too.
I don't know.
because Are we supposed to feel in cosmic flow if we're actually hands-free with the ego, or is that something that our ego makes us think would be happening because of the drugs that we do or something? You know what I'm saying? Is that just always going to be a temporary state, or are humans supposed to be there and we're just getting in our own way?
Yeah, I don't know the answer to that, because,
For sure.
yeah, if anybody knows the answer
You're
to
not
that.
in like a 30 days of cosmic flow yet.
No,
like
I didn't
straight
say
through.
that.
No, I mean like straight through, right?
No, I might say I'm in 24 hours a day, every day in
Forever.
cosmic flow.
You feel it that way.
I'm not efforting and in struggle.
Right, right.
I feel that.
Right.
I
Just-
don't know
yeah.
how else to say it.
No, it's fine. That's a great answer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But will it stay that way? I don't know.
For sure. But you know what? When the
Have I
cosmic flow
arrived
line-
and myself realized? I have no idea.
Quick question about, you mentioned dream drops. That was interesting to me. Is that subconsciously intentional? If you don't really dream?
Okay, so here's the thing. What I've heard, and I'm not a dream expert, but I've studied with different dream people, is that we all dream, but we just don't choose to remember them. And I have a friend who swore when we got together that he does not dream. And then I said, I think you do. And so
Yeah.
he's now remembering his dreams.
Kind of just a 101 thing people tell you when you're young too is if you think before you fall asleep to remember your dream, then when you wake up you will have remembered it. Just
Yeah.
kind of like reminding yourself. Or don't smoke weed.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's true.
Yeah.
So I
Take Ambien.
truly believe in the oneness of everything. And we were just camping last night in nature, and I dreamt like crazy. I
Wow.
never remember my dreams.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you did have them, and you got a bunch of them.
Yeah, and I just, my rational mind was like, well, you were in a light sleep because
Right.
and that's how you
Forget
remember
that stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, right.
But honor them now that you had them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
Very
write them
cool.
down and start bring them to
Yeah.
your next journey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to Peru in November. Again.
Yeah.
So, on the topic of dreams, I have actually gone through periods where when I wake up, I write all my dreams down, but they always do just seem like random stuff. And I like being able to remember my dreams because it kind of tells me my sleep's decent those nights, because if I don't dream, my sleep probably sucks. But do you have any thoughts on, is it always the case that your dreams are meaningful, or are there
So again, from what
Resources.
I've studied from other people that know there's dreams that have different purposes, and some dreams are just working out stuff. But for the most part, for me, if I every time I wake up, the dream makes no sense. And then I can, from more of my ordinary life state, I can work with my dreams to a certain extent because I know the skills, I know how to work with my dreams. But when I bring my dreams into the medicine, it's a whole other story. And it's like the whole thing gets illuminated in a flash.
What do you mean that? You're just when you take medicine, you just have the intention of figuring your dream
I always
out?
bring my dreams to the journey.
Okay, that's interesting.
And I even do some journeys for the purpose of understanding my dreams deeper.
That's
So
very
I'll
interesting. That's very
I'll take lighter doses of things just for the purpose I want to go into the dream deeper.
Do you think that the dream realm and the psychedelic visionary realm are pretty much one and the same thing or connected?
I think they're definitely connected.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But I don't know if they're one and the same thing. I don't know if
Right.
they come from different places. I have no idea.
Right.
Yes.
I have a question unrelated to dreams.
Okay.
For you, where does the ancestral legacies or intergenerational trauma kind of fit in this picture? Because part of my work recently has been I've been very aware that I'm also healing my ancestors.
Yeah.
And doing my work, so it seems to me like not quite part of just the trauma little self story.
Right.
It's part of the cosmic picture.
Yeah. Really good point.
But it's also part of it. Definitely informs my trauma little self story. Through my developmental trauma.
Yeah.
I'm very aware I come from a long line of women who just were not loved well by their mothers.
Right.
And mine is just another iteration of that.
Yeah.
And then I'm iterating it again with my daughter.
Yeah.
So I'm just curious.
Yeah. My viewpoint. And thank you for that. So we'll add that in. Ancestral. Thank you. I didn't put it because it's not at the top of my mind right now. So I didn't put it in, but I've certainly done ancestral work intentionally. And the way I view it is that whenever I'm working on myself, I'm helping my ancestors.
Well,
It's just a one-on-one.
Now we're learning about epigenetics and trauma being passed down through.
Like imprint in your DNA.
So again, like these are all like special learnings that we can go and we can learn all this, the science behind it all, and that's all great. For me personally, it doesn't help or support me whatsoever to know the science. I've never, it's just my own personal thing. I'm not a science person. I really respect science, and I think it helps a lot of people accept what they otherwise could not accept. For me, I've always functioned intuitively, and so for me, I don't need the science. And so I kind of write it off, okay, great, they're getting it now, but it's like, for me, it's just like I know that when I'm healing myself, I'm healing my ancestors. I don't have to know why. I don't have to know the science of it. And like from where I am right now, there is not a whole lot of ancestral buy-in anymore. So that little story that I really had to work on and do a lot of, quote, ancestral healing as I was clearing this out doesn't exist for me very much anymore. So I'm just not attuned to it. But I totally believe that we are healing ancestrally when we're healing ourselves. Because it's happening like through our DNA and everything.
What do you think about energetic work through like Reiki and chakras and as another?
Totally, I totally am firmly a believer of energetic work. And I think somatic work is energetic work. If you're doing it and you're in the right consciousness, you're also somatic. When you're working somatically, you're working energetically. But you know, all those energy modalities, yeah, whatever works for you. I'm like totally on board with energy work.
Do you think like forgiveness is a huge part of like healing traumatic energy? Because like if you're unable to forgive past guilt or shame, you won't feel like you deserve to like be healed. And then maybe some of that is like ancestral as well. Like my ancestors have done really messed up stuff, and if you're not able to forgive them, then you're not able to like fully heal.
So this is such an interesting question for me, forgiveness, because I think when we're hung up in, when we're caught in guilt, shame patterns, we buy into the idea that we need to forgive, because we do. We need to forgive ourselves and we need to forgive the other people. I mean, that is an important concept to work with, and we work with it in all the different ways, and the medicines can really help us deepen our capacity to forgive or find compassion. So forgiveness is just another word, right, for finding compassion with ourselves, finding compassion for others, and understanding that what's happened to me has happened to them. You know, it's all part of the bigger picture, right? Okay, but once we're not standing in guilt and shame anymore, then forgiveness is a crazy concept.
Right.
Because nobody needs to be forgiven for anything, because nothing really ever happened from that place. It's only when we're buying into something happened to me that I feel really bad about myself for, and bad that they did it for me, then forgiveness becomes something that is a tool to work with. But as soon as when we step into our essential self, there's no need to forgive anymore. Because, at least for me, I understand from essential self that we're all running our patterns. And it's my mission or my destiny or my heart's desire to support people into their essential self. And so there's no blame, judgment on anybody's process of getting there to their essential. We've all created our stories in order to heal from them, which brings us to his essential self or self-realization on that level. Complete forgiveness where there's been no wrong done. It's all part of the process of getting us there. And I do want to say that I will explain this, because this will help understand for me, for you guys maybe, and even it helps me understand. When I was it was maybe 5 years ago, I don't remember exactly, when I went to Peru and I did work with ayahuasca. So I'd done many different had done mainly LSD when I was younger, and it opened up portals, and I understood what was available to me. But it took me decades, actually, to integrate and be able to live more healthfully. But when I went to Peru and I did ayahuasca, there were about 8 journeys, and on that 8th or so journey, I went. I was like I was taken up to the place of source, and then I was brought back down. And while that was happening, it's like I became really aware that something was completely clearing my life, my whole life pattern up to that point was being completely wiped out. And then when I came back down, it was like, oh, I'm now in a different beginning without the past story. And then it's been now like 3 to 5 years, I don't remember, that I've been slowly building a different life story. But I didn't understand the process at the time. So now I'm realizing that as I'm sharing this with you, like about I'm just coming into manifestation in a whole different life story. And so I can't really relate to this one. And the first time I did MDMA, I went in expecting, because MDMA happened a few years later after that clearing, and I went and I did MDMA, the trauma medicine, and I went in fully expecting that I was going to be working out my mother never loved me and all this story stuff, and I didn't get any of that. It was gone. All what I got was a total sense of this essential self, and then what my next steps were, that was what I got. Didn't get any of the story. So, yeah, I mean, I'm realizing now, okay, how did I get here? That's probably how the medicines did their part of the work, and I did my part of the work. Yes?
I just wanted to express some gratitude because, I've done a lot of work on different modalities I remember even I did ayahuasca, and the teacher, shaman, he was actually Native American tradition. They were doing a little cross-cultural thing. At the end of it, told me to let go, and if I heard another spiritual teacher tell me to let go, I was going to like, because my question was always like, what and how? And I don't, of what and what are you talking about? And I've never heard it phrased in a way or talked about in a way of, because I didn't feel safe. And I never feel safe, totally. So just to even have that safety pegged to my physicality and my emotions as opposed to my thoughts, because I can think my way into or out of anything. I can tell myself, I can even pretend to feel safe by thinking strong thoughts about safety. But it's not true. And so I would be in these situations, and like I said, I did ayahuasca, and he was like, I had some lovely visions, and I didn't go deep because I didn't feel safe. So I just this is kind of revolutionary for me. So I'm very grateful.
Yay, glad. Thank you. Anything else?
Just curious, this is a part of, I understand it's like a part of this 6-part series. Is there any, maybe on the website I haven't seen it, so just drag me along to see things I'm excited about it. Is there an overview of like what to expect in like each part,
so look on,
just kind of flow?
So look on the meetup site, and then each one I'm focusing on a specific aspect of healing from developmental trauma.
The next one, I believe, is about journaling.
No,
Nope.
that's actually a separate thing.
Oh.
So if
Sorry.
you're, I don't know why, there's not many people signed up to journal. Journal is one of the best devices for accessing the depth dimension. It's not like a little girl's diary. So if you have those concepts, throw them away, because when I do journaling and teach journaling, which is coming up on September 26th, that's actually separate from this series, but we're going to go into some very deep journaling around, and different journaling processes around the depth dimension of working.
Is that going to be on?
Hmm?
Is that going to be the psychedelic meetup webpage?
Yeah, it's on the psychedelic meetup. It's on September 26th.
It'll be here, and we still have the other venue, but all your things will be here now.
Okay. Yes.
So, picking up on journaling and going back to dreaming, someone mentioned having little snippets of dreams that don't seem to have any personal meaning, and I found that if you would pay attention to those as you wake from them, write enough down for context and start asking about them. Like, so what would happen in there that would have personal meaning? Or what was the challenge for this consciousness, this perspective and how might I get there? Not only does it start being personal, but I found that you start building on those dreams. Like if you really focus on them, start asking these questions, a few dreams later, you're back in that place again and picking up from there and starting to build. And there's a recognition in there. Too. I've been here before. I kind of, oh yeah, huh. What was that about? And start building on it. And in terms of not being able to remember the dreams, having an experience of I'm not dreaming. I had a lot of that, and it turned out it was physical. That I have some genetic abnormalities that aren't that abnormal, but they're not ideal. And also in traveling to some of the faraway places we go to do things, I got hitchhikers, some intestinal parasites. Between the two of them, I wasn't getting certain nutrients in my system, and then when it was there genetically, I couldn't cleave certain amino acids or synthesize them. I made something else, and that showed up in some nutritional testing, and I was able to piece it all together and start correcting it, and lo and behold, all of a sudden, yeah, I'm dreaming and remembering all, but I had basically a slow motion metabolic brain injury going on because there was a nutrient deficits over a long period of time, and without the genetics and without some testing to find out what parasites I had, and without nutritional testing, I wouldn't got all that. Well, when I did, that made a huge difference. So you make a way out, if you're having some troubles with that or other things. I mean, it shows up a lot of ways. It's getting cheaper and easier to do that. And last, talking about different modalities and cheap. We in Portland are blessed to have a lot of different community acupuncture sites, and that can also help you out. A lot of people think that acupuncture just is something for pain or whatever, but it can energize you, actually get your mind going. If you have a good acupuncturist, they can really work with a lot. And when you're in trauma a lot, your immune system is activated kind of chronically, and they can help with that too. So one of those organizations is called Working Class Acupuncture. There are others. Just the idea of community acupuncture. You go into a room with other people, and it's inexpensive. They just spend a moment putting needles in you and taking them out. And the rest of the time you're hanging out there instead of one-on-one with a therapist paying for the whole time. So that's something I didn't recognize immediately as being a part of all of this, but my experience has been very beneficial.
Thank you. Thank you. I didn't know that. Thank you.
It's
Anybody
8 now
else?
if you want to. Yeah, it's 8 p.m. now if you want to take closing questions.
Okay, closing question?
Well, I wanted to throw out a comment just into the dream discussion that my sister just mentioned to me last Thursday, which was, we were talking about my nephew who doesn't report having dreams, and she said that in Chinese medicine, actually, the the sign of not having dreams or reporting to not remember the dreams is a sign of balance.
Oh.
So for people who are like, oh, I'm not, just another interpretation.
That's very
All
interesting.
right, well, I must be really imbalanced.
It's just, they're just different perspectives. So I don't know what's true and not true.
I just wanted to ask, at the very beginning, you mentioned a video over the previous session, and there was a way to see
Yeah,
that.
so the UB on Trauma, which was the talk I gave at Paris Theater a couple of months ago, it's on YouTube through the PPS.
We have a channel, Portland Psychedelic Society YouTube channel.
Okay, yeah.
Which maybe you can on the website.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll reorganize all that real soon too, so it's like easier.
Jason, thank you, Jason, is
For
an
sure.
awesome videographer.
I did record the first session of this, but I didn't post it anywhere because it was at our other location, and the audio quality we could hear like the cars passing by in the background, and it was really, it was not. I might find some good clips of the demonstration you did. She did a demonstration of identifying the somatic, the feeling, and then doing some healing kind of on the spot.
You don't even have to spend time because I'm sure it'll all get covered.
We'll do it again.
throughout the next few
Okay.
series. It'll all get covered again.
Right on. Yeah, then I'll post all that on social too.
Hey.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
And then coming up in October, we've got a one-day conference with Dennis McKenna and more. We are currently open for sponsorships for both the Stamets and McKenna events. So if you've got a business that would like to support our community, a dispensary, a glass store, a naturopath, anything like that, we are currently looking for sponsors. Let's keep Portland visionary.